There was a new repo update that added 3 new weapons, a new map, and some balance changes that not everyone is happy about. And today I'm going to show you guys how to deal with enemies now with big nerf that happened and how the new weapons work. So yeah, I hope you enjoy. The first weapon is the Boltzap. It has 12 charges and it consumes 1 little crystal charge for 4 bullets. This weapon is honestly not great on its own because it only deals 2 damage but stun the enemies for a few seconds. So you have time to throw them in the pit, but if you don't have a pit around, it's kind of useless as you can see, because even with a pit, I was struggling with a trudge. The weapon is also very useless against enemies like R.E.P.O that can literally fly out of the pit, headmen as well, and probably a few other enemies. I didn't try against all the enemies, but overall, this weapon I would say only buy if you really have money to spend, even though it's very cheap. It's with around 15,000. I don't remember exactly. I know I saw one at 14,000, one at 18,000. So this new weapon is affordable. The second weapon is the Prodzap. It has 10 charges and it consumes 1 crystal charge, or like like a little crystal thing on the right side, as you can see, for 3 charges of the weapon. The weapon itself is not bad. Again, this weapon only deals 2 to 4 damage, but stuns the enemies, and the enemy falling or hitting the walls take 25 damage. So this weapon can also be good for pits, but on its own, it's also not the best. As you can see here, I'm struggling a lot with the headman, but against the duck or other enemies, it's actually very good. But like I said, it really depends of your situation and like if you have pits, because without pits, I would say that none of these weapons are really great. The third weapon is called the Pulse Pistol. It has 6 charges and it takes 1 crystal charge for 2 charge of the weapons. Again, this weapon is pretty cool, but also not the best. It throws the enemy very far, so it's hard for you to grab the enemies and throw them in a pit, but it can deal a lot of damage if your enemies bounce around a lot, since it does 25 damage per wall hit or floor hit, but the weapon itself doesn't do much damage. This is an example with the weapons in use in a map that has more pits. So the Prodzap, you have to get close to the enemies to hit them, which can be scary against certain enemies like these clowns right here. I easily stun them and can easily throw them in a pit. It's not too hard, but like I said, when there's no pits, it's harder, and this duck, also pretty easy. Just kind of take the weapon out, hit him, put the weapon back in your inventory, and throw him in a pit. As for the Pulse Pistol, like I said, it can be good if the enemy hits a lot of walls, just like this Mentalist, for example, with 250 HP. If your enemy hits a few wall, and then I don't know, you grab the enemy to hit him with more walls, you can basically kill most enemies with 1 or 2 of your bullets. It's still not the greatest weapon in my opinion. Now, something that a lot of people have been complaining about, the item nerf. You cannot stun enemies with items anymore. Well, actually you can, but not with the items that you're used to. You need heavier items to deal with enemies. Like this right here, I could not stun him with a crown, but with the clown I can, even though you could literally stun and kill a Rugrat very easily before with a small item. Same applies for most of the enemies. For example, this Mentalist could not get stunned with a medium item, but when I grabbed the vase that is way larger, I actually got a stun very easily. So I don't know if it's worth using any items to stun enemies now. You might want to use the strategies I'm going to show afterwards. For these strategies though, you have to know how the new Overcharge mechanic work. So if you hold an enemy for too long, you have this meter filling in the middle of your screen, and when it's full, you explode and take 20 health damage every time. So you kind of have to know how to deal with your enemies now, but if you just feather your enemies, You can kind of play patiently and deal with them slowly. This is definitely not the best for a lot of enemies at the same time. But like you see here with the clown, very easy. I just kind of not feel my meter and I wait for it to unload a little bit and then I just grab again and do the same over and over again. You can still very easily deal with the enemies that are lighter. For example, the Mentalist here. You can just throw them up, let the gravity do its job. He's gonna take 25 damage per hit. So you can basically kill most of the enemies. Like you can see here, the animal. I can just throw him around, kind of feather with him and let the gravity do a damage. And yeah, that's kind of how you deal with smaller enemies now. To deal with bigger enemies, you will need the trank gun or a stun grenade, though both are actually really good with the strategy I'm going to show you. The problem is when you stun big enemies, they are still taking your meter when you move them around. So you can actually use the cart to use a strategy called cart bashing, where you basically hit the enemies with the cart and it deals a lot of damage. You can kill every enemy with one stun doing that, besides the Trudge, because he has way too much HP and they recover in time. I hope that you guys learned something today and that you enjoyed this video. Please consider liking and subscribing. I am definitely going to be uploading more repo content. I'm busy right now with a lot of finals and stuff, but I will definitely be doing a lot of challenge runs and high level runs on this update. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next video.